Hey, good morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this May 9th version of AM Live on EOA, your connection to Eastern Oregon and on the EOA network. And here in a bit, we're going to have Kenn Wheeler, who is the Associate Professor in the EOU Theater Department with us, talking about the new show that's coming up.
Cool.
Yeah. How are you?
It is First Friday.
It is First Friday. And it's
May 9th.
May
Already.
9th.
Yeah, it's just flying. We have like 2.5 months until
Shrine.
Yeah. That's how my clock works. Just preparing for that, really. It's crazy. Well, what'd you think about the debate? Or excuse
forum.
me, the forum. I just say debate because of how the judge thing panned out again.
Yeah, no, I thought it was. I mean, the Observer the Observer and Chamber, the ones that put it together, and I thought they did a really good job. Corinne, Rajati, and Andrew, who I've been on the other side of, put several things together with them before, and so Andrew Cutler, who is the editor, he's the editor of the Observer, and so. No, I thought it was well put together.
I just felt like I felt the first one, 9 people for commissioner, it just gets awfully repetitive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you're all answering the same question. Everybody pretty much has the same answers. And It's just like, oh.
Well, and I don't know how they would have changed that.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I mean, it's just the amount of people is...
They did the one thing that they did do. So we knew there was going to be an opening and a closing statement, and we knew there were going to be 4 questions, and we knew the topics. I mean, we knew there was going to be a question about housing and a question about drugs, and
yeah, I could have told you what the questions were going to be about before they started.
Right, but what was the 4th question was, why why are you different than anybody else?
The other people? Yeah.
But so what was funny about that though is that I mean in this one, so then you essentially got to talk. So you got to talk about yourself at the opening and the closing, and you got to talk about yourself on the 4th question. So I mean there was probably more time than what there has been in the past. There was more time for candidates to talk about themselves.
When do the ballots have to be turned in by?
21st.
And so is that the day? The 21st is the...
The 21st is the day.
I need to talk to that guy. The guy up at the...
Yeah.
So we can get a little show going.
Yeah, Lisa.
Live. Oh, it's a girl.
Yes.
A woman.
Yeah. And yeah, she's the new county clerk.
No, we'll have those results for you guys right when that live like we usually do.
Yeah.
I'm hoping. Yeah.
No, so yeah, and what's surprising is the number of people that have. I mean, some people like traditionally me. I get the ballot and it sits on the table
until people do that
until the day of.
Well, Union County has one of the worst voter turnouts in the whole state.
Yeah.
It wasn't good.
There were 9,000 registered voters or something like that.
I think last year, I want to say Robin said it was like 40% or under.
Yeah.
Like 38. I can't remember the exact numbers.
I'm really, with 9 candidates, I think it's going to be really thin margins between, I think there's going to be a group and it'll be like 1%. I mean, it's going to be super close. Just because, So.
Everybody has 7 votes. You got 7 votes? You got 7?
Yeah.
No, it's going to be more than 7, but you know what I mean. Like, it's going to be stretched out and thin.
Yeah.
And really, like, it's a good group of candidates.
It really is.
When I look at it and I'm sitting there trying to, think in my head what the commissioners do and who, you know what I mean? Like, it's tough. There's a lot of good people up there, including my boss. You know what I mean? Like, you're up, and then people that I've known for a long time, you're just like, man, who would do this job?
No, it's kind of funny because we've interfaced with Robin Clark over the last several elections.
Robin Church, yeah.
I'm sorry, Robin Church, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know why I keep getting Robin Clark. Anyhow, I mean, she's just a wonderful person.
Oh, I know. She used to feed me every election.
Right. Yeah. And so, so then for to be on, and what's funny is I think we've been to 3 or 4 city council meetings together. So, because one of the things you do when you're a candidate is you go visit, the city council meetings around and stuff. And so, and I've been with her in Embler and in Union. And then the other night I was with her in North Powder. Yeah. And so it's like, we need to drive together.
Do you think, when you're running for office, do you think that like going to those things is like a form of bootlicking a little bit?
Absolutely.
100%,
but the whole thing is
it's all bootlicking.
It's all bootlicking. Yeah.
You should talk to Scarfo about that. Yeah. He's the professional.
No, it is interesting because we've been knocking on doors when we can, and the number of people, like Tanya and I went and knocked on doors last Saturday afternoon in North Powder. I mean, and the number of people, like, we have never had a candidate knock. I mean, they're appreciative. They're super appreciative. Huh. Never had somebody show up and knock on.
It's not like when the Jehovah's Witness knocked on the door or whatever.
It is not. There is some.
Get off my board.
There is some skepticism at first.
Yeah, they probably think you're trying to sell them something.
Yeah, absolutely. You look
like a salesman.
But wait a minute, what's this
He's
old
selling
fat
meat
guy?
out the back of his out the back of his Geostorm.
Yeah, what's this old fat guy doing on my porch? Yeah. Anyhow.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So anyhow, well, you want to do sports?
Let's do it.
All right.
AM Sports Report brought to you by Rockin' Sons Tire and Auto. If you have anything that you need done for your vehicle, go see JB and the boys. I don't usually talk about BMCC sports, but I'm going to for just a second today because BMCC baseball, which we have 3 LeGrand kids that played here at the high school last year, playing for this team. They swept Columbia Basin yesterday. They're 24-20 on the season and 17-9 in the NWAC, and they made the playoffs with that sweep for the first time since 2009.
Wow.
Which is awesome. Jay Scow, who is one of the LeGrand guys, is 2-0 on the season. He has 7 saves, and he has the lowest ERA on the team, 2.25. And he's been real good for them. Logan Williams hit his first college home run a week and a half ago. Sam Chachis has seen some innings on the mound as well, and man, it's just cool to see these LeGrand kids doing well at the next level. LHS baseball lost both games to Pendleton last night, 5-9 and 2-5. They are currently 11-7 overall and 7-3 in the GOL. They are ranked 14th by the OSAA. They play Pendleton this Friday over there at 2-4 in another doubleheader, and this is basically going to decide their GOL season. I mean, if they sweep Pendleton, I think they're in a tie. If they lose one of the games to Pendleton, Pendleton wins the GOL. But as of right now, the Tigers baseball team is in the playoffs, and I think regardless of what happens with Pendleton, we'll still make the playoffs. LHS softball was canceled versus Vail on Tuesday. They play Pendleton on Friday in a double header over there as well. Those games will wrap up the ladies Tigers season. Right now they're 17-1 and then 9-1 in the GOL. So the games versus Pendleton will decide the GOL on Friday. The Pendleton is our only loss on the year, so we split the first time we saw them, and these Lady Tigers are looking to win the GOL. They're ranked 4th in the state, and they're going to make the playoffs for sure. EOU Track and Field heads to Klamath Falls on Friday and Saturday for the CCC Championships. The women are ranked 23rd in the country, and the men come in at 11th in the country. So, I mean, I would assume head coach Ben Welch's hopes are high for this CCC conference meet, and as they should be. They're good every year. One of the things that I love about Coach Welch is just his passion for his team and passion for the sport of track and field. He's just super passionate, and it's awesome. EOU is fortunate to have him. The national tournament is set, and the CCC champion Mountie softball team, tournament champion, is the 1 seed. They'll travel to Lawrenceville, Georgia, and they will play the winner of Spring Arbor, who's the 5 seed, and SEU, Southeastern University in Florida, who's the 3 seed, on Tuesday, May 14th. The other teams are Missouri Baptist, who's the 4 seed, and Georgia Gwinnett, who's the 2 seed. Georgia Gwinnett's the host as the 2 seed, and there's 10 pools across the country for this tournament. 8 out of the 10, the number 1 seed is the host. Two of the 10, the number 1 seed is not the host, and I don't like that because home field advantage is huge. So we go into this as the number 1 seed, EOU, but we're playing on Georgia Gwinnett's home field. And I mean, I don't know why they do this, but they set the tournament sites before they do the bracketing and the seeding. So, I mean, you can't change it after. So Georgia Gwinnett comes in as a 2 seed and gets to host it and has home field advantage. Not a big fan of that. I think if you're a 1 seed, you should have home field advantage, and it should be at your complex. But I don't know if EOU's ready to handle a tournament like that yet. I don't know if we've ever even applied for it. I think the process is you put in an application and then they decide based on your facilities. Anyways, that's the AM Sports Report brought to you by Rockin' Sons Tire and Auto. Go see JB and the boys.
All right.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah, it's exciting. That Mountie softball team's good. They got a chance to make a run. I mean, they won the tournament in the best conference in the country.
Yeah. Fun. Good stuff.
Oh, let me add too.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, head coach Nicole Christian on the sports show, and I'm thinking at least 1 player, maybe 2 players. So we're going to sit down and talk about the conference tournament and the national tournament.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let's look outside.
It's
Man,
nice out there.
the sun is out. It's beautiful.
I know my sweatshirt was almost too much this morning.
Yeah. No, it was. Yeah, it's gorgeous, and it's supposed to get up to like, what's the weather graphic here? It's supposed to get up to 71 today.
It's a golfing day.
It is a golfing day. Yeah, Dana, I'm sure is excited about that.
Yeah, he's having a putter demo today at 10. I don't remember the name of the putter, but get out there and go see Dana out at the beach.
Yeah. Go back to that for just a sec, Gabe. So it was 70, and then 76, 81 Saturday, 80 Sunday. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. Yep.
Yes, sir.
So
that's tough to beat.
Yeah, that's
It's going to
awesome.
be a beautiful weekend, and we don't have any sports at home at all. Zero. Maybe little kids. There's little kids, little league and stuff going on. But no high school, no LeGrand, no EOU.
Yep.
It's just a weird weekend.
Yeah.
It's nice weather, and then we don't got any sports.
I'm probably going to be knocking on some doors again this weekend.
Selling vacuum sealed ribeyes.
What would be funny would be like to just have a whole bunch of pots and pans,
Yeah, or vacuums.
Yeah. Yeah, and show up and then actually I'm a candidate. Yeah.
Have you ever seen that guy with the cleaner, the hat that just goes off? It's on social media a lot, but he cleans their shoes and their porch, and he shows them all this stuff that could clean, and he does a comedy skit with it.
Yeah.
He became a millionaire off of that.
Well, you know what? I had heard that. You know what vacuum sales guys would do in the past is they would have the vacuum there, and they'd ask if they could do a little demonstration, and then they'd get inside the house and they'd dump a whole thing of dirt right on the carpet, and of course the woman of the house or whomever was at the door would be like, and then they'd vacuum it all up right then and there. Like, yeah, you'd get yourself killed that way right now. So, all right. Well, in just a minute, we will have Kenn Wheeler, a good friend of mine. We've been in shows together in the past, and he is the associate professor from EOU of theater, and he'll be with us right after this. Okay. All right, we're back. Associate Professor Kenn Wheeler from Eastern Oregon University. How are you, man?
Other than it's way early in the morning, I'm great.
You know, why is it that artists everywhere, whenever we talk about having it's like, well, I mean, because you were at rehearsal last night.
I was at rehearsal last night, and then usually people stay around and talk a little bit.
Yeah, right.
My wife finally called me to make sure I wasn't like in a car wreck or something.
So like, what?
Yeah.
And you're building the set. I mean, so there's a lot more than just directing in the show.
Yeah. I designed and am building the set, and I also ended up in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone who was in it wasn't able to continue, and so I stepped into their role as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So it's not ideal. Have you been in a show and directed it? And I'm sure you have. You've done that. Yeah.
I have, but then I had my wife who was there to step in when I was on stage.
Yeah.
I actually did a production of Fiddler on the Roof one time, and I had to play Tevye. The guy that was playing Tevye had a heart attack.
Oh my!
Actually, and so he didn't die. He was fine, but I had to step in and take over that role.
Had you played that role before?
No, actually, I played a different role in another production, but I'd never done Tevye before.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you are one of the most skilled people I know.
Thank you.
And and I know I told the story last time that you were on, that when we did My Fair Lady together, and I did a little bit of music theater when I was in college.
Right.
But I've been on stage and done, a lot of singing and different stuff like that and stuff. But I am not a great reader. And so then I get cast as Henry Higgins in My Fair Lady, which, one time I did all of the songs and all of the dialogue when I was rehearsing that, and it was 45 minutes straight of stuff,
Yep.
And so then the very first reading we're together, and you play
Alfred P. Doolittle.
Alfred P. Doolittle,
Eliza's
who is
father.
Eliza's father,
Yeah.
and he's kind of a drunk, okay, and he's got a Cockney accent, okay, and so in the very first reading, you're in full character, and I was like, you have got to be kidding. I was barely reading the script, and you are in. But you had played that role once before, though. No?
I didn't. I'd never played it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I was in the show in high school, but it's one of those shows that if you're in theater, you know it really well.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So in fact, I thought about, in preparation for this, I thought, oh man, it'd be great to go get a little clip of you and I interacting together.
Yes.
But yeah. So, but anyhow, yeah. And you and I have interfaced in a number of different places, and then we spent a lot of time in the dressing room together, which sounds really awkward, but it wasn't that. Yeah.
There were others. It wasn't just the two of us. There were several in there.
And Terry Hill was in that.
Yeah,
And
Terry
that
Hill
was where
in
I
it
got
as
to
well.
know. Yeah, I got to know both of you guys really well through that. That was. I think back on that. That's a precious time of my life. But
Yes.
the thing about you and Terry, and I mean, you've kind of lost track of the shows that you've done. I mean, there's so many of. For me, it's like, I mean, I only do one on every 20 years, and so I remember it really well. But for you guys, it's like you get one done with one, and on to the next.
I've directed more than 100 productions.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and probably acted in more than that. And,
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I've had a little bit of experience. And
Yeah.
every morning when I wake up, I feel it.
Do you?
No, it's great. I love it. It's a passion.
So, if you had to pick a character that you really enjoyed,
Oh, wow.
before we roll into the talking about the show.
There's a musical called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum.
Uh-huh.
And it takes place in ancient Rome, and it's about a slave who wants his freedom. And the slave's name is Pseudolus. And so it's all about the machinations that he goes through in order to get his freedom. And it was written by Stephen Sondheim. It was one of his earliest works. Stephen Sondheim is an icon in musical theater. And when I was teaching at Treasure Valley Community College several decades ago, I did a production of Fiddler and got to play that role, and that was probably the most fun I've ever had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you said you did a production of Fiddler, and you got to play that role.
Yeah.
Okay. So but isn't the show called On the Way to the?
Funny thing happened on the way to the forum.
Okay, but what does that have to do with Fiddler?
No. It was, you asked me what my favorite role was.
Right.
And it was Pseudolus, and Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum.
Okay.
I have done Tevye.
Okay.
In Fiddler.
Okay.
And I enjoy it. I love it.
Got it.
Yeah. There are 3 or 4 roles that I've always wanted to do. And Pseudolus was one of them. Tevye was one of them.
Got it.
Sweeney Todd was one of them. I think I'm getting a little old for that now. But yeah, so I've been able to do most of them.
Yeah.
That I've always wanted to.
Well, cool. So now, tell us about this show.
It's called She Loves Me.
Okay.
And it was written by the same people who wrote Fiddler.
Oh, okay.
But it's a totally different story. It takes place in a perfumery in Budapest, Hungary in 1936.
Now, what's a perfumery?
It's where they sell ladies' perfume.
Okay, I presume so, but
lotions.
okay.
And it's about two employees, a man and a woman, and you find out that each of them has a pen pal that they've fallen in love with. And so they write each other letters. They've never met. They write each other letters, and they've fallen in love. They don't know that they're in the same shop.
It's them.
Right.
Okay.
And in the shop, they don't get along. And so it's all about how they finally decide to go to dinner, and so it's all about how they finally come together in the very end and discover that they've been in love for all along.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun.
You know what's crazy about that is that's not unlike social media.
I was just thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It's like on social media, it's this happy, lovely thing, and then at home they got the boxing gloves on.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And Kyle shared a couple of times
thinking that exactly.
about your son having an interest in
he liked this girl, and she went to the same school as him. And I'm like, well, have you talked to her? And he's like, yeah, on Instagram. He's never even talked to her face to face. I'm just like, I was trying to think of like what that would have been like when I was his age, because you didn't have cell phones. Like, you had to ask the girl to the dance by walking up to her, and saying, hey. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's based on a movie called The Shop Around the Corner with Jimmy Stewart. It's an old, I think it's an old black and white movie. I've never seen it, but they did a revival of it on Broadway in 2016, and they recorded it, and I watched it, and it was interesting because they do some really cool things with the set, because you see the perfumery on the outside, and then it opens up and you see it on the inside. And it reminded me of our small theater, our Schwartz Theater, has a revolve in it. And we've never really been able to use it a lot. And so it reminded me of that kind of movement. And so in this one, we used the revolve 21 different times.
So this is in the Schwartz Theater?
It's in the small theater, yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it is. And the audience is right there. Very close,
And you have, let's show a couple of those clips that we got, Gabe. And this is in the small theater, and you guys, this has been remodeled not too long ago.
Yes, about 2 years ago they finished the remodel.
Right.
Yeah. And if you had been in the Schwartz Theater before the remodel, you won't recognize it.
Yeah.
Because you used to have to walk down into the space.
Yeah.
And now it's just level with the regular floor.
Yeah.
But here they were rehearsing one of the dance numbers.
Yeah.
Heather Watson is our choreographer. She's amazing. So.
She is, and she does a tremendous amount of stuff.
Yep.
And then play that other clip. This is you doing
all night till dawn lit up the sky. And now now in these clips we don't have any walls up, but now we've got 10-foot walls for the outside and the inside of the perfumery.
Wow.
And then we have walls that are on platforms, rolling platforms, that go around the theater. And on one side they're painted to look like a cityscape, and then on the other side they're the other scenes that we need. And so we'll be rolling things into place and then revolving them around for their scenes. And it's going to be really cool.
So the background, the set of the background is going to flip one way or the other, right? Is that what? Or
the perfumery is permanent, and it spins, it revolves.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So you have the outside and you have the inside.
Okay.
And then around the outside of the theater, there are 4x8 platforms with walls, and they also flip during the show. So,
interesting.
Yeah, it's a little bit complex, but it's going
it
to be
is.
interesting.
So, which is super. I mean, so you and I, the show that we did was out at the Elgin Opera House, and that was a phenomenal set.
Yes.
What do you call a real live set versus a projected set? What's the term for that? Yeah.
I don't know if there is a term for it. I mean, projected scenery is still relatively new.
Right.
So I don't know if they've coined a phrase, that differentiates between one and the other.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's our set is completely fabricated.
It's a hard set.
It's a hard set. There we go. That's as good a term as anything.
Yeah.
As compared to the projections, which they're using out at the Opera House a lot now.
Right.
Which has its advantages.
Oh man.
You can change a scene in an instant.
Right.
Whereas with a hard set, you have to turn it around. But I like both.
Yeah.
I like the hard set.
Yeah. I saw a show last August where they were using panels. Video panels, and the video panels would move.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that was super interesting. But it was they were using it for they were dancers that were dancing or singers or something.
Right.
So it was more of a background. It wasn't really a set that you believed in and stuff. And so, but yeah, the whole video side of that is changing.
Absolutely.
And when we did My Fair Lady, it was kind of a combination. There was a hard set that was in front of a projection.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
they're doing on Broadway. They're using projections so much.
Are they? And
they
that
really
was
are. Yeah. There's a production on Broadway called Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, I believe it's called. And there's one scene where they're actually on top of a train that's moving, and they magically jump down and appear inside the train. You couldn't do that with a hard set.
Right.
But with film, it's just like instantly they've changed. They've moved.
Yeah.
So projections are being used a lot now.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, and that is just crazy. And they've been doing that in Vegas for years.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, no. But there's something very, with the hard set and the hard, there's just something, when you first come in, it's like, oh, it's a living room, but after a while, you just get your mind, you forget about the outs, and the same thing happens with the projected set. It fades away, and you're focusing on the characters and so on and so forth.
With a hard set, you have more of the three-dimensionality that you don't have with the projection.
Yeah.
And that thing you were talking about, I talk about it with my students. It's called the willing suspension of disbelief.
Right. Yeah.
We know when we go into a theater that we're not going to be, in the streets of Hungary, Budapest, Hungary, but we allow ourselves to believe it.
Yeah.
And so that's an important part of live theater, is being able to say, you know what, for 2 hours, I'm going to allow myself to live with these people in this perfumery.
Yeah.
And go through whatever they go through.
Well, tell us about the characters that are involved in. You told us about the two other ones. Maybe tell us about the actors.
Okay.
That are involved.
It's really interesting because we have a mixture of college students and community members.
Okay.
We're still, believe it or not, we're still recovering from COVID.
Don't say that word.
The pandemic. Because when the pandemic hit, all live production ceased. It stopped in high schools and in college.
Yeah.
So when it started back again, there was no resource to draw from as far as high school students who had experience and wanted to continue into theater. So we're 2 or 3 years behind, like music departments and those kinds of things, because we didn't have the resources. Now we're able to find high school students who are interested in coming and doing theater.
Wow.
It's like the opposite of sports.
Yeah.
Sports had people that, got an extra year of eligibility, so you had all these kids piled up, and you weren't even able to take high school students. But because it ceased completely, you guys had to deal with just a lack of people.
So we're still growing. So it's a small show. It has a cast of, I believe, 11 or 12. I'm trying to remember, but they're all either customers or clerks in the store, and I play the store owner, Mr. Marichek. It's Marichek's Perfumery.
Okay.
And it's really interesting. The show is about different relationships. Like the main characters, their relationship is all based on letters. And so it hasn't come to fruition yet. In the show, my character finds out that his wife is cheating on him. And then there's another character who's a happy family man, and he's been married and has children. And then there are 2 characters who are actually dating. And one of them, the gentleman, is a real player, and he's playing the female character. And she has to come to grips with that and finally resolve that she's going to break it off with him. And so it's all about these relationships. And it's interesting because it takes place in about 1936. And so we've got this romantic musical about love. And, at the time, on the outside, all of Europe was fomenting with the rise of Hitler and
World
all
War
of
II.
that stuff. And World War II was just around the corner. So it's really interesting to think about. Here's this happy relationship piece when all around them it was really starting to turn dark in the world. So this is, but it's a lot of fun. It's a happy musical. My assistant director keeps saying after rehearsal, she's like, I just love this musical. and it's not one that's ever been super popular. It's not like Fiddler on the Roof, but people are just going to love it. They're going to really love it. And it is very intimate. The theater only holds about 95 people. Oh, wow. And we have people acting right up to them. We have somebody riding a bicycle on stage. So it's a lot of fun.
Oh, it sounds great.
Yeah. And like I said, we have college students and we have community members. We have several people that I've worked with out at the Elgin Opera House. Hunter Adams, who's a mainstay at the Opera House, is playing the player, the clerk who's and then Grant Deem, who is still in high school, is playing the teenage role. There's a teenage, he's a delivery boy who by the end of the show gets an advancement and ends up being a clerk. And then we have several of our customers who are alumni, and but we have probably the most. We have a large number of students. Our gentleman who plays George, which is the lead, he's doing his senior project. He's graduating this year, and so this is his senior project and his love-hate interest.
Yeah.
Anyway, George is played by an actor named Nick Avisi. And then Amalia Balish is his counterpart, and she's played by Abby Whitnaw, who is also a senior, but she's not a theater major; she's a theater minor. And then we have a couple of freshmen. Aurelio Marin is playing the married clerk, Mr. Sipos, and then Sierra Anderson is playing Miss Ritter, who is the love interest of the player, and so there's 5 clerks, plus Arpad, who's the delivery boy, plus the owner. And then we have another freshman who's playing the detective who comes in to tell Mr. Marichek that his wife is cheating on him. And then we have this wonderful scene in a restaurant. Finally, George and Amalia make a reservation that they're going to meet at this restaurant. And so we have the customers and the waiters.
Oh, I
and
can
all of
just
that.
imagine that. Like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, who are you to hear? I mean, yeah, the opportunity of them.
And what's fun about it is that George has just gotten fired. So he decides that he's going to call off the date. So he has Mr. Sipos, the other clerk, come, and he's supposed to go give her a letter, but they don't do it. He ends up talking to her, and they have this really interesting conversation. So yeah, it's really a fun show, fast moving, scenery's going all over the place.
Yeah.
So,
and
yeah.
now, is there singing?
Oh, yes. Yes.
It's a musical.
Yes, it's
okay.
a musical.
All right.
And,
There's dancing as well. We saw
Right.
dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
They're getting down.
So yeah, there's a little bit of everything. Everything that you might like is there.
You mentioned that there's community members in the play. Like, can just anybody like show up? And,
It
like,
depends
how's
on the
that work?
show.
Yeah.
If it's a small show, we usually reserve it for college students, for the
Right.
students. But because we're still growing, I don't know if I could have cast it using just college students. And so we determined beforehand if we're going to open a show up to the community. And then we just, we advertise it and let people know that it's open to the community. And so anybody who
come
wants
try
to
out.
can come and audition, yeah. Usually when we do really big shows, we'll open it up to the community because we're just a small university, a small
Right.
program. So doing a big show like Fiddler on the Roof, for example, would be really hard to do without community
Yeah.
participation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you read a script for the very first a show you're not familiar with, can you envision that? I mean, can you translate that into seeing it happen?
Usually in a pretty realistic setting. I don't necessarily envision it on stage.
Yeah.
The first thing I do is I listen to the music, and if I
okay.
really enjoy the music, then I'll look at the script. And it's kind of interesting because I'm a pretty conservative person for theater. So when I read a script or when I listen to the score, the soundtrack, there may be times where I really like the soundtrack and then I read the script and I'm like, no, that's not quite for me. But it just depends. But
Yeah.
I can, as I'm listening to it, I try to have, I have the cliff notes. Used to have them on the albums and the CDs where you could follow along and get an idea of the story. So when I listen to a show, that's kind of what I do is I look at the cliff notes and I envision it. I usually envision it in one of two theaters, either a small theater or a big theater.
Yeah.
I mean, reading a script isn't far from like reading a book.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
you're envisioning all that
Yeah.
in your head. I mean, at least if you're an active reader, some people just read and aren't active in the book. But
Yeah.
if you're an active reader in the book and you like truly like embrace it,
Right.
you're doing pretty much the same.
Pretty
thing.
much the same. And most scripts also include stage directions.
Oh,
So
okay.
not only do you get the dialogue, but you also get kind of the action of when people enter and exit and that kind of thing.
Like Susie Q enters stage left.
Yeah,
That's what
exactly.
we're talking about.
Right, and that's the part. It just makes me dizzy. I mean, it's like, I can if I hear it or I see it, of course, then it's easy to absorb or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, when we're working on My Fair Lady, and all of the blocking, you have some kind of a shorthand in your script,
Right.
and you're trying to memorize so you're trying to memorize where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to say at the same time.
Yep.
I mean, that was exhausting for me.
Yes.
I mean,
Well-
it wasn't until it was all memorized before I was like, I finally had it down. Yeah.
Interesting, because most of the time for actors, the blocking helps them to memorize.
Yeah.
So they really don't, we usually don't require that people be memorized until after the blocking is
Yeah,
done.
right.
Because they tie the memorization, they tie the lines
Right,
to the
yeah.
blocking.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
Blocking.
yeah,
Explain that.
blocking is the movement that the actors,
Okay.
that the director
Yeah.
gives the
Yeah,
actors.
you move from here to there and deliver that line. Yeah.
And it's called
And
blocking.
but it's all super specific because it's the way your face. I mean, it's
Oh yeah.
Facial expression, everything. Like,
well, that's kind of in the line. You kind of figure that out. But
Right.
but
That part usually comes a little bit later in the process. The blocking, and it depends. There are some directors who just do really general stuff. Like I've had a director who said, just move when you feel like it, and I'll see if I like it. And then
Right.
you have other directors
that would
who,
be me.
Yeah.
That would be how I would direct.
And then you have other directors who are like, okay, on this word, I want you to raise your hand, and then I want you to
17 degrees to
yeah,
the right.
exactly. And usually actors like the freer director who give them more opportunities. When
you can be creative that way.
yeah, you give them more creative license.
Yeah.
I usually tell people, I'm creating a circle, and I want you to work within that circle, and the only reason I'll stop you is if you go outside of that circle.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I remember. So Mike Frazier directed My Fair Lady, and there was this one scene. It was kind of pivotal, and I was supposed to stand, and I'm like, stand and move, and I'd be like, yeah, but why am I standing? There's no motivation at this moment for me to stand, you know? And so we had this long conversation.
Right.
It didn't seem, I mean, it probably wasn't that long, but it was in the middle of the rehearsal, and it came down to like, because I want you to stand.
Yeah, 'cause I'm the director. And
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I will do what it is that you want, but just know, yeah.
I have said that before. I said, why? Because I want you to.
It's like,
And it's
okay,
basically
that's,
like, you
and
need
that's,
to find the reason to do
yeah,
it. That's
yeah,
your
and that's
job.
all I needed. It was like, okay,
Yeah.
I can get, and so then as an actor, I had to create some kind of an emotion, like, of course I'm going to stand at that moment.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's
you
how
know,
it works.
yeah. So it's a strange animal. It really is.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's great fun. But as a director, I would prefer to have people make choices, and then I would say, you know what, that one doesn't quite work. Let's try something else.
Yeah.
Rather than to have them just stand there. And I'm
Right.
like, give me something. I need something. I need you to react here.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I would prefer an actor who does crazy things, and I have to say,
And
pull
try
it back.
stuff,
pull
yeah.
it back, than
Yeah.
someone who just stands there.
Yeah.
well, like on TV and movies, if people didn't ad lib, it would be boring.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it wouldn't
Yeah.
be as cool as it is, like especially comedies.
Yeah.
The ad libbing, like, or adding stuff in, the actors and actresses puts that extra flair on on it.
Yeah.
The difference between that and stage is stage actors also ad lib a little bit, but the problem is usually what happens with an ad lib is you get an actor reaction rather than a character reaction. Like somebody ad libs and suddenly everyone's laughing on stage, and
it distracts.
in film you just cut and
I was
start
speaking
again.
more like not ad lib verbally, and I
Right.
don't know what the word is, but ad lib
Oh,
like motion
right.
as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Nope, you're
Do
absolutely
something
right.
a little out of the ordinary, and it adds
Yeah.
a little flair. Or,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know what's the word for that. Blocking.
I don't know.
Ad blocking.
But what happens is when you do multiple shows, it's a little creative, but you end up doing it the same way every time.
Yeah.
Because you're the actor is across from you. They got to know when to come in. They got to know, okay, when is that person through speaking,
Right,
and when do
right.
I start my line? You know, and
Yeah, and in a long run show, it's not uncommon for actors to say to another actor, "I want to try something different tonight."
Right.
But it's common courtesy to tell the other people,
Right.
Tonight I'm going to try to do this, or
Yeah.
tonight
Right.
I'm going to,
Just so you don't.
yeah,
tell 'em.
rather than
See, I'd
just
be the
doing
guy
it.
that just do it just to like, I'd be out there like he's supposed to be twisting around right now, and I'm standing there with my feet.
Yeah,
yeah, it was there was a time that, and when you work with somebody, Renee Wells was the one that was Eliza in My Fair Lady, and you do the same scenes so many times, and we had so many stuff together. There was one thing where she could just tell by the look on my face, I had no idea what
idea.
the next line was. I mean, she just knew. It's like, again, and there was a microsecond, I paused a microsecond, and she jumped in. Well, aren't you going to say something about that? Aren't you mad? I mean, she ad-libbed a little line, something that cued me to what it was I was supposed to say. Either that, or she just skipped ahead, and and those.
We call those deer in the headlight moments.
Oh man, it's just like, you saved my bacon. I'm telling you,
Yeah, it's casts get really close because you're constantly on stage together, making sure things work, trying new things. Allowing your emotions. You have to allow your emotions to come out in order for it to be realistic and effective. And so people get really close.
Well, and what's interesting to me is that once you get all this down, the line and the facial expression and the blocking and all of that, it feels mechanical. At least it does for me. I mean, it's like, I'm going through a sequence of events, and I'm doing that, and I'm delivering it the same way. And then, but afterwards, the audience would come as like, I was so convinced that you were a jerk. I was, because Henry Higgins is just he's just an absolute turd.
He is, absolutely.
And so when they were convinced that it was like, oh man, it felt super mechanical.
Yeah. What I teach my students is the key to that idea of spontaneity.
Yeah.
They call it the illusion of the first time.
Yeah.
We've rehearsed it 50 times.
Right.
But the audience needs to feel like it's happening for the very first time. And so I teach my actors that the key to that is really listening. Because it's very easy when you've done it over and over and over again to kind of zone out.
Right.
It's like, I don't have a line for 3 minutes, so I'm just going to sit here.
Right.
But I teach them that you actively listen to the other people on stage.
Right. And react, and
you react, and then you react naturally.
Yeah.
And it works that way. But there is a certain amount of. I have certainly had nights where I'm like, I'm just phoning it in tonight.
Yeah.
So you want it to feel like it's just happening, like it's spontaneous.
Well, and I was thinking earlier, when I started doing theater in high school, the thing that you figure out is that every action that you do, you might feel like you're overacting and it's really big, but the reality is that it just looks totally flat, whatsoever it might be.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so as an actor, you feel like you're overacting, and you're just like at base level. You are just being convinced. I mean, you're just barely convincible that you're actually that person.
Well, and that's the fun about getting an audience, because when you're on stage, it's an interaction with the audience.
Yeah.
You can tell if the audience is buying what you're doing or if they're not.
Yeah.
And you have to be careful as an actor that you don't go over the top and don't do too much.
Yeah.
I have one actor who's constantly making different choices, and which I love, but it's like, okay, pull it back a little bit.
Reel it in.
Don't steal focus. We're supposed to be watching this person, not you.
Right.
So,
and the other thing is, like, super aware is not to upstage somebody.
Right.
And
that's mostly my job as the director.
Right.
Which is a little harder when you have to direct and then run on and come on stage.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm very thankful for my assistant director, because she's able to watch the scenes that I'm in.
Yeah.
And respond to them.
Yeah. So can she give you direction?
Oh,
Does she?
Yes, she does.
Yeah. It's like, hey, pull it back just a little bit.
Yes, she should. Yeah. No. If you talk to my wife, she'll tell you that when she first started directing and I was in the show, I wasn't the best actor, but I've learned that,
you weren't compliant.
I was arguing with her, and it's like, no, you don't argue with the director. But I've gotten better.
Yeah.
So, I even take direction from my assistant director. Yeah.
Well, all right. So I want you to just do some different characters for me before we quit. So let's do a little bit of Eliza's father, and I'm sorry.
Let's see. I have to remember. I don't even know if I remember the lines.
Well, and you don't even need the line. Just give me a
I go into a Cockney accent, and then I talk like this, and I make it sound like I'm from the streets of London.
That's right.
Alfred P. Doolittle is my name.
All
There.
right.
How's that?
That's good. All right, so now do a little bit of Tevye from.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Dear God, you made many, many poor people. I understand it's no shame to be poor, but it's no great honor either. So yeah.
All right.
And in this show, I'm kind of very proper, and he talks like this, Mr. Marichek, Mr. Novak. You know,
You're a perfume shop owner.
I'm a perfume shop owner.
In the 30s. So,
So I have a 3-piece suit and everything. So yeah.
That's the picture that I see in my head when I think about that clothing store that was in La Grande in the 50s. I can't remember what it was called, but you just think like a proper guy in like a 3-piece suit sewing.
Yeah. All of the clerks are in suits and dresses and everything. And they actually, it's kind of fun. They actually have this thing that whenever anyone leaves the store after making a purchase, they sing a song to them. You know, they're like, "Thank you, madam, please call again, do call again, madam." And so that becomes a rotating thing in the show.
Wow.
So it's fun. But yeah.
All right. So the show is called
She Loves Me.
Let's put that graphic up, Gabe, while we're talking about that.
Yep. And so it runs for 3 weekends. It opens on May 23rd, which is a Thursday.
Okay.
And it's a little bit of a interesting schedule because we usually schedule our shows in the previous year. Mm-hmm. And this year, for some reason, we didn't get the schedule cemented until later. And so on the second weekend, we're not having a Thursday performance because it's the choir concert. And then one weekend, we're only having one Saturday performance because it's Memorial Day.
Okay.
And we want the kids to be able to go home. So check out the website, on the theater website. It has the dates and the times. But it's the 3 weekends. It opens on the 23rd and then plays for 3 weekends.
So put that up one more time, Gabe.
Yeah,
so
take a close look at the dates.
Okay, yep.
And tickets are $15, general admission, $10 for seniors and military, and then EOU students get in for free. So,
Excellent.
Yeah, so
That's cool.
And there are a limited number of seats. Like
95 of them.
95.
So how many shows are you doing altogether?
I think we're doing 11 shows.
Okay.
And that's why.
Right.
You know, we wanted to do more shows because the theater's smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's so. I mean, I like, you know, My Fair Lady was the most shows that I'd ever done in a run. That was 4 weekends and stuff.
Yep.
But man, you get really close to people.
You do.
You do. I mean, your cast and friends, and that's the highlight of, for me, is the relationships that I built and those memories and moments, and you know.
It's kind of interesting because there's a difference in philosophies. Some actors and teachers are like, it's all about the process. It's all about the rehearsal. It's all about that. For me, it's all about the performance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about the sharing with the audience. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And you're not really performing without an audience.
Right.
So yeah.
Well,
I mean,
and
it would have to be all about the performance, right?
You would think.
I mean, like being a big league baseball player and saying it's all about practice. No, it's all about hitting that home run in the bottom of the ninth. You know what I mean?
When the stands are full.
Yes.
yeah,
Exactly.
no, but for me, it's the accomplishment. I mean, it's like a sports team. You work your tail off. You rehearse. You know, everybody knows their role, and then you have the big game. You know, only you have 12 games. You know, I mean,
And the win is the standing ovation.
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's the win.
yeah.
Right?
Well,
Yep.
and the first win is just that. Okay, hey, we got through it all. There was flow. There was no major, you know,
Mistakes,
the
no
audience
problems.
didn't know that anything went wrong. You know, I mean, that's the first win.
Yes.
You know, and so
Yep.
yeah, and then they just keep getting better from there. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, no, good stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody come and see it. It's a great. I tell we have students that are not theater students working on the scenery, and I tell them this is a great date movie or not movie date play to come see.
Right.
You know, it's great to take a date to. So for a fun night out, this is going to be great.
Well, and there's enough variety of times and dates that people should be able to find a slot where it works out for them. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, Ken, thank you so much for being
you.
here.
Pretty
and
awesome.
No
thanks
problem.
for being a dear friend.
Yes.
I treasure, I mean, you can tell by the way I talk about that moment that it was, it was really precious for me.
Great
So,
memories.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. You want to get us out of here?
Let's do it. On this day, May 9th, 1502, Christopher Columbus leaves Cadiz, Spain, on his fourth and final trip to the New World. 4 times, man, in 1502. 1865, President Andrew Johnson issued a proclamation declaring armed resistance in the South is virtually at an end, which basically ended the Civil War. 1960, the United States becomes the first country to legalize birth control pills. 1960, it's been around that long. 1980, slasher horror film Friday the 13th is released in the U.S. cinemas on this day in 1980. And then 2022, on this day, an Andy Warhol painting portrait of Marilyn Monroe sells for $195 million at a New York auction, and it's the highest price ever for an American artist's work. That's a lot of money. $195 million for a painting? On this day in 1994, the #1 movie in America was The Crow. And the crazy thing is Brandon Lee died during the filming of this movie.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He got shot on set, and it was a firearm malfunction. There was a piece of
blank.
From the previous shot. The tip of the bullet was still in the gun, and the
really?
blank shot the tip of the
wow.
bullet out. And and he only died because it hit a major blood vessel. I mean, he would have lived if it wouldn't have hit that particular spot, but it ruptured a major blood vessel, and he died on set. It's crazy. The quote of the day comes from Albert Einstein. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. One more time. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them.
All righty.
Yeah. EOU softball head coach Nicole Christian tomorrow on the sports show. And at least one of the players, I'm not exactly sure who I'm going to have yet, but they're getting ready to head to Lawrenceville, Georgia for I think it's the first time they've ever been a #1 seed.
Wow.
Maybe second, maybe in 2000.
Wow.
I'd have to ask Nicole, and we'll find that out tomorrow. But this team is really good this year. It's real good. It's different. I've been saying that all year, and it's super exciting.
Yep. That's great.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Ken, for jumping in with us this morning.
No problem.
Yeah. Really appreciate it. That was fun.
For
Yep.
sure.
Yep. And thank you, Eastern Oregon. We'll see you soon.